Hi everybody, Paul Cameron here from SpeedUpMyJobSearch.com with a clip from our monthly jobs-driven networking group, which meets every third Thursday. Let's take a look. Pat is a talent acquisition partner at Sativa. These are the guys that, and you can say it better than me, Pat, but they make the equipment that makes that all these companies are using to, manufacture the vaccine and different medicines and things that we use.
We're really partners with those companies that are on the front lines with the vaccines. We're supporting them with equipment, materials, and even knowledge base. So we're behind the scenes, but play a really active role in that.
Prior to this, director of talent acquisition for companies that I think everyone knows, Panera Bread and Kohl's and other organizations. And then, of course, recruiting firm owner. He's got a unique perspective to this whole thing because he came from, where I'm sitting, the boutique recruiting firm where you're hustling every day to get new clients and positions open. And now he's hustling in a different capacity and trying to fill the massive amounts of openings that you have. What sparked this whole meeting and conversation, I have been teaching and training job seekers for 20 years now. And there's certain things that are kind of staples of my programs. Using LinkedIn to take advantage of employee referral programs. I've been teaching this since roughly 2013. Ironically, at the time when Pat moved from Wisconsin to St. Louis, and I'll share the full story here. But back then, he was the director of talent acquisition, or your manager of recruiting?
Manager of recruiting for Kohl's.
And his mom had stage 4 cancer at the time.
Yeah, just not going in the right direction, of course.
Yeah, and he wanted to move down closer to home, down in St. Louis. And he used a couple of in-mails through LinkedIn. And I've been teaching them and sharing the scripts with people for all this time. So I'm curious, Pat, how'd you come up with this? Where did this come from? Did you take it from somewhere?
No, actually, I took it from just being on the other side of the fence. How would I want to be approached? For me, I really wanted to make a calculated decision on where I was going. I didn't want to broadcast my resume out to 50 or 60 places and do all of these interviews. I really wanted to be honed in. I was playing it from a kind of a recruiter hat on. How would I get a better response? If I know somebody, if they look like they're going to be a pretty good fit, obviously I'm going to get reach out to them and respond versus if I have no title relevant or no background relevant. And again, not to get off on topics here, but that is one of the things that I've seen on LinkedIn. Just really dismal profiles. They'll have a title, they may have one bullet point or something just obscure. Resumes are starting to change format now too, and they are starting to mirror that. And quite honestly, from a receiver standpoint, I can't tell you what you're doing or not doing. So if I question what you're doing because the resume can't tell me, I'm going to move on to other things. So I guess the thing that applicants, job seekers, and everyone else needs to understand is, if I rewind 10 or 15 years ago, from a recruiter standpoint, I had just a really low volume of positions I was working on. So, 3, 5, maybe 10 positions I was working on. So I could really get into the details and really get into LinkedIn and really start networking and spend a lot of time there. And so maybe in that case, hey, that's an intriguing title. Let me go explore because I've got time. That is long past, that's 10, 15 years ago. Today, the rec load for a requisition load or job load for any recruiters probably doubled it, if not tripled. So we don't have that time. And in fact, our time is, if it doesn't tell me what I need to know in about 30 seconds, I'm moving on. With LinkedIn, there's an AI component to it. So artificial intelligence is really, when I post a position on our job board, it automatically goes to LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, there's this AI tool that automatically goes out, matches profiles based on my job posting. Now the AI is still in an infancy stage, but it is kicking things back to me. And so I think you've got to really build out your profile. Now, I'm not saying it's got to be a 16-page profile or anything crazy like that, but you really have to tailor it to the job description you're going to. You almost have to look at your job profile on LinkedIn as a resume. It needs to be, and just like a resume, if you're going to apply to a specific position, you need to go back to your resume. And I'm not saying fabricate, but you need to pull out those experiences that are specific to that role and reformat your resume. The same thing for that profile on LinkedIn. I know that sounds like a lot of work, and there is some work to it, but the benefits and the payoff are going to be substantial. Outside of LinkedIn, the applicants that I do get through our applicant tracking system. So again, I post a position, anybody who applies comes in, and that's my view. For any position I have, I mean, right now, and I'm in a very specialized market too, life science. So there's not a huge talent pool out there for these folks, but even getting 30 to 60 resumes for each one of those, and then I've got 30, 40, 50 positions open, that's a lot of people to go through. So really my process is I'm going to go through those applicants until I find several that are good. They've taken the time to articulate how they fit based on, just again, aligning their job description to the resume and sending it. So it's kind of just really eliminating the guesswork. And another thing to kind of consider there is anytime you read through a resume and you have a question, I'm going to move it over to the B pile, because I'm going to look at the ones that don't have a question, and those are the ones I'm going to go forward with.
And what do you mean by that? That you have a question?
Whether they fit or not. Hey, you've applied to a leader role. Well, I don't see anything on here that shows me that you're a leader, but it says you've got the title. You're a manager or you are a leader. All right. So there's no people team listed on there. I'm assuming leading process and not people. So that's just an example. So again, question, I'll put that to the side. And then I'll go on to, again, someone else who is really better articulating that exact background.
An aspect I didn't really think about was that from the internal perspective, like you at Sativa and the other organizations you've been with, you mentioned this morning that you have goals for the number of referrals that you get.
Yeah, I would just tell you, corporate America, every company out there has goals on how they get their hires, and referrals is going to be probably one of the top, 2 or 3 on that list that they're going to emphasize. The theory is referrals. We know these folks, they're validated, they're verified. All the stats out there show that referrals are better performers. The reality is, based on those data points, there's a push to get referrals. So, and again, I would tell you guys that, that definition of referral, in a lot of the companies I've been in, is a little bit blurred. You don't really have to have a buddy that you go hang out with every week that you're reaching out to. It could be that one-time person that you reach out to at that organization who you say, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about the culture? That responds, and either way, one, they send you forward to a recruiter, or say, hey, I'll get you in touch with the hiring manager, or they spend the time directly with you. You come through the pipeline at that point in the process, you are considered a referral. And honestly, that is, again, you and I briefly talked about this before, Paul, but again, as I mentioned before, if you're applying through the normal process, I get my 3 to 4 candidates and I'm moving forward with them. I'm not going to go back in and look to see who else new has applied. But if you're a referral, you're going to come directly to me, and then you're inserted into the process. So now I get visibility, and there's always a little push to go, hey, give them a call and let's see what they're about. So immediately you're back into the game, where if you went through the normal route, you wouldn't even be considered. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't go back in the system and look.
So just to reiterate though, somebody reaches out with this, hey, can you forward my information along? That counts. So you reach out to a hiring manager, and the hiring manager looks at your profile and says, hey, Pat, this guy looks good. Now that person, who they don't know each other very well or at all, that counts as a referral, and that candidate is flagged as a priority.
Yeah, I can't blanket statement on that and say every company does that way, but
right.
I'll tell you, for the companies I've been with and that I'm aware of, that is how they would do it. Now, those are companies that have a culture of referring. And in fact, it's part of who they are, is they want to refer. They want to, and I know companies that have criteria, and actually part of their bonuses are paid on, did they refer enough people? And so they've got that culture. So again, majority of them are going to have that, because the alternative is we're waiting for somebody to show up and apply. We have to go outside and use an agency, and sometimes that's totally right for the right positions, and other times it's not. And so if those are alternatives versus, hey, we can get a referral and we can push this, it's very low cost, and there's a connection to the organization, and all the data points I mentioned before about better performers and longer term, less turnover, all of those positive data points. there's no reason why we would not want to go referrals. So to have your name and resume attached to someone and be considered a referral, I would tell you, keep doing that, because that is the method.
Yep.
In fact, you guys probably have already seen this in your own job search. How many jobs have you applied to that you didn't hear anything back? I mean,
Right.
we could be talking about hundreds of jobs, versus if you've tried that 100 times on LinkedIn and having a contact and a referral, I guarantee you do it in that kind of volume, you're getting multiple responses, and they're going to get you into the process.
I hope that was helpful for you, and please check out the rest of our YouTube channel for more tips and strategies to help you with your job search. I'd love to meet you at the next one, so I hope you can make it. Thanks for watching.